Hey guys, welcome. Looks like you guys are just joining right now. And I'm Anthony. I'm going to host this along with Brett, who's been a medical device rep and manager for many years. So, welcome, guys.
Hello.
You guys all doing? So, we're going to have a Q&A going on. And I'm Anthony. That's Brett again for you guys still joining. Definitely feel free to hop on. And Brett's going to ask me questions as a recruiter. I'm going to ask him questions as a med device leader and sales rep in the past and marketing rep too. And then we'll open up the floor to you guys for your best questions for us.
Yeah, and don't hesitate if you have a follow up to just type it out in the chat, and hopefully we'll be able to see it. But I appreciate all of you joining, Anthony. I appreciate you setting this up. I'm excited to. I'm always excited to talk to people about the business and see what kind of questions, see the pulse of where people are at. Those that want to join, those that are thinking about it, those that have made the commitment to do it. I think that's kind of interesting, and I also think that there's a lot of nuance in what we do, and what is a recruiter, and why do they have them? Why does a company like us use them, and what value is that to someone that's trying to get into the space? So Anthony, I'll just throw a couple of questions to you that I thought might be pertinent to people that are listening. As a recruiter, when does someone engage with you and start reaching out?
It's a great question. So we're here to be an extra set of eyes for people in the job market. And when they reach out to us, when they're pretty serious about their career. And I think you guys are all on here because you're serious about your careers, whether it's breaking into medical or moving into the next step in medical if you're already in medical. Maybe you're in pharma looking for medical device. It's very similar. So when they're on the job hunt, we're here to be an extra set of eyes because we may have an opening. There are two of us on my team, just to give you guys perspective. We've got 30 openings nationwide. Are you guys a fit for one of them? Maybe. If you're not, I can still give you great advice on how to find the best role. And I can say, well, when I get a role in Tallahassee where you live, I'll let you know. I wish I had 30 roles in Tallahassee. We're just not that big, but when that's why we're here as well to kind of enable you guys, show you guys how to find positions on your own because oftentimes just getting an interview, as Brett knows, and you guys probably know, if you're here, it's not easy. Just getting that first interview, the first look, because it used to be, paper resumes, maybe back a little bit before my time. Then it turned into applying online, which you could do. Now that everyone applies online, there's no differentiation. So hopefully I'm not getting too tangential there, Brett, just trying to give a little bit of my 2 cents.
No, so what I'm hearing is if somebody is interested, they engage with a recruiter immediately. It's the first step after obviously getting a resume together and
Yep.
some background info.
Great question. As a recruiter, like I said, there are two of us on my team. We look at resumes half the day. So, do I know a little bit? I do. We're always getting better at what to look for on resumes, how to help you guys with great tips. So, I would implore you guys to all reach out to me when you guys do get in a med device interview process. I'm here to help you throughout the process. I don't have like a program or anything like that in depth to help you, but we can go over more in depth something like that later for you guys. It'd be contacting me, Brett. It'd be reaching out to people in industry. A lot of people don't think they know people in industry. And do they really not know people or they're not doing the outreach? Probably not doing the outreach or the thinking. So they probably have a neighbor or a friend of a friend whose uncle's is a doctor or someone's a nurse or someone's a technician or someone works at a hospital. They probably do unless they live under a rock. If they live under a rock, okay, jump on LinkedIn. That's when you're going to start to add people on LinkedIn. I'd recommend from the companies you like. Like if you like Stryker, everyone's heard of Stryker, cool. You might want to Google other competitors to Stryker. You're going to find Smith and Nephew, DePuy, that's Johnson and Johnson, Zimmer Biomet, and go to the reps from the company, but don't just say, let me pick your brain. I'd say, I checked out the devices. Here's my market analysis. Can I jump on the phone with you? I'm interested in J&J. That's a good message when you send that on LinkedIn. So it's not like, hey, let me pick your brain. Hey, give me 10 minutes of your time. If you get their time, you're just lucky. But I'd say outreach with a great message and adding value, you're going to get a lot better response rate. And those people are happy to educate you on their company because they love their jobs in medical. As we'll get to when I ask Brett questions, he's really fulfilled with what he does.
So do they just reach out? Is there an intake form? Do they just send you an email with their resume? What do they do?
Yeah, they'll add us on LinkedIn. Send me their resume, an ad request. Even on LinkedIn, when you add someone, you can send a message as well and can add your resume. If someone's really on the job search, like if you're unemployed and on the job search, I'd recommend putting the green banner that says open to work on your LinkedIn. So then you'll have more recruiters like me and employers looking at you. Because we see the banner, so we automatically click on it. Oh, how can we help this person? Do we have a role for them? Things of that nature. So reach out to, I'd say, multiple Anthony's in medical, multiple people at J&J, multiple people at Stryker. It's really putting a lot of irons in the fire because you want to find the company that fits the best for you. Maybe the first one you speak to, Stryker is not a fit. Maybe you don't like that culture. Maybe you don't want to be what we call on call. And that means you're working weekends or holidays at the drop of a hat. You might not want that. So you might find, oh, I want to roll in urology. Well, let me do a lot of homework so I can find urology companies and reach out accordingly.
Okay, fair enough. And look, I don't know that we did a great job of just introducing ourselves, just to let people know kind of who we are. And I apologize for that. It was pretty brief, but I'm Brett, and I've spent as of October here 33 years in the medical device space, and in several well, a lot of different roles, some international stuff, a lot of management in the last decade. And my passion is to try to help people that want to get into this space find a an on ramp, if you will, into it. And some people is certainly easier than others to help, but that's kind of who I am. I'm currently also a manager at a large medical device company that has allowed me to help people in my personal time. So that's sort of what we're doing here today, and just wanted to let you guys know who was you were talking to a little bit, and not be a stranger. So I apologize for not saying that up front. Anthony, did we lose you?
I'm right. I'm right
Okay.
here. Can you hear me
Okay.
okay?
I couldn't tell. So what kind of backgrounds do you normally see come in to you?
It's a great question. And I wanted to follow in your footsteps, Brett. I thank you everyone for jumping on. I'm Anthony. I've been a recruiter for 13, 14 years at this point. Time flies. I've met Brett through a lot of mutual connections in the industry and have known him for many years at this point. And he's modest about his background. He's worked at some killer companies in marketing, sales, clinical. Don't let him trick you. He's very modest about how well his team does. Like they're on stage all the time. So yeah, he's the one to go to, and so am I. So I'm a recruiter. I've enjoyed it for over a decade to help folks like you guys break into medical or find your next step. And I forget what you just asked, Brett. That's on me.
No, that's what I was asking. Just ah, now I forgot too. I was
On me.
enthralled with listening to you. Um, it doesn't matter. I've got a couple other questions here to follow up with you on, because I'm marking out my questions as I ask them. Do you work with clinical specialists, or you only work with salespeople?
That's a great point. How many of you, by a show of hands, know what a clinical specialist is? Okay, Sophia does. Lily does. Yenny, do you as well?
I have an idea of what it is, but please
Oh, okay.
let me
Well, I'm
know.
happy to take this one then. So most, I say most, um, a lot of uh, medical device companies will hire both salespeople and what they call clinical specialists, or they might call a technical specialist, TSS. If you see something like that, that's also a clinical specialist. And the primary difference between what they do is who has the sales responsibility to go out and grow business. Now, everything is nuanced, right? So there's certainly salespeople, or certainly clinical people that go out and make sales calls. They do lunches. They'll do, when I say lunches, I'm talking about an education lunch or an outreach lunch. And, um, and they'll do a lot of things that are similar to what a salesperson does. And now both of them will be active. I can't imagine that there's any companies that have clinical specialists that don't cover cases. They would call them something else. So if you're a clinical specialist, and you will spend a lot of time in the operating room covering cases, teaching doctors how to use the product that you have, prepping patients, or prepping the products, and getting them ready. So again, generally, a company will hire someone with some sort of maybe a nursing background or a clinical background, maybe an MA. There's lots of different avenues in. It just depends on the company and the person. But that's primarily what a clinical specialist does, and I'm happy to follow up or answer any follow-up questions. And then, like I said, the salesperson does all of those things as well. They're expected to be in the operating room. They're expected to cover cases. They're expected to be knowledgeable about the product, but they're also expected to go out and incrementally grow the business year after year and do fundamental selling activities that a clinical specialist not always has to do. Not sure if I answered that well enough or anyone has a follow-up. And by the way, Anthony and I are super open. If you want to ask us something, it's a laid back group.
Do you mind if I hop in and ask a question as follow up?
Please.
I've also seen like associate territory manager as kind of an entry level position. Can you explain that one in comparison to those as well?
Yeah, of course. So good question, because there are a lot of those as well. What an associate sales rep does is it's usually brought in because the product that you're selling may be a little bit clinically challenging, and it might take someone longer to become an expert in that product. And it's a great on ramp into med device because it's a little bit lower pressure. They're putting you in situations where you can learn both clinical and sales related activities. And again, it just depends on who the person is that's coming into the role. But I don't know that I've ever seen hiring an associate sales rep where they weren't sort of underneath a full-time territory manager. Now they might be expanding, right? And say, all right, today we've got an associate sales role open in wherever, in like Tucson. I'm in Arizona. So, and then they're hoping in a year to expand and allow that person to grow into a full-time territory manager. As a matter of fact, almost every instance I've ever seen an ASR, the expectation is that person in the year or two that they're in that role becomes fully ready to be first in line off the bench to become a full-time salesperson. And the only thing that can limit them, obviously, you're never going to get a promotion if you don't perform, right? So performance is key. That's the first thing that has to happen. And then the other thing is how willing is somebody to move, or what's just the standard situation. But if you're for an ASR, you've been doing a great job for 2 years, you're probably open, like I said, first off the bench, anywhere in the country that there's a sales opening if you want it. They're good.
Those are great questions.
Yeah, really good question.
Brett, I love that answer. And you guys, I'd implore you, if looking to break in, to be open and not title focused. Like if you see an ASR, associate sales rep, if you see an ATM, associate territory manager, if you see a clinical specialist role, I'm not saying to blindly apply, right? But remember to network with your network and your network on LinkedIn and recruiters like me, because these roles sometimes are synonymous. Like if you find out a clinical specialist role at Stryker called a ProCare specialist or a Mako specialist has career growth, and they do, then it's a great career path. It can lead clinically to many promotions. It can lead into sales. It's where the door does open sometimes, because sometimes if you interview for a representative role at Stryker, they're going to say you don't have the experience, and you could break in as a clinical or an associate. And then in time, as Brett mentioned, in a year or 2 or 3, whenever it is, after a promotion or 2, could become that rep or move up clinically. So I wouldn't close the door to clinical specialist roles. So I'm kind of glad that a lot of you guys didn't know about those roles, because I didn't either till maybe 5, 6 years ago. I really thought sometimes there's no career path. And that's where, when you're in the process, you want to find out from the company, is there a career path, or will I be a clinical for decades? And some people like that, to be a clinical resource in cases for decades, helping people on the front lines. That's cool. It's awesome. It's rewarding. Some people want to know what's next, in 2 years, 5 years when I perform. So I wouldn't just be titled centric looking for associate roles or just clinicals. Like open the floor and find out, because the first step in the process, obviously, is preparing and getting that first interview. And it's really learning more too. You might find out this is not for me, but hey, learning is by doing these days, right? By getting into it, by practicing like what we're doing, by learning more. So stuff gets done. Those are great observations.
Yeah, I wanted to comment one more one more thing on that. The titles, and I'm glad you said it the way you said it. Titles are wildly different between organizations, right? You might see someone that it says they're the AVP and they're the territory manager, right, or the sales rep. All those could be exactly the same thing. There's no standard set across med device companies. Sometimes you'll see a regional sales manager, and sometimes you'll see a regional sales director, and like I said, an AVP, which is an area vice president. And you just don't know until you get into it. And I would also say that companies that have very complex products will often go hire a person with a sales background to be a clinical specialist for a period of time. So in my career, I did that very thing in cardiac rhythm management 20 years ago. I was a sales rep, had been a sales rep in med device already, and went to be a clinical for 2 years in cardiac rhythm management because it was a highly technical, challenging job, and they would never hire someone with no experience in pacemakers and defibrillators to be a sales rep. So they hired me knowing that I would be a future salesperson. And sometimes we'll hire someone knowing they're going to be a future CS or a CS leader, right? There's a vertical for people that want to do clinical work because there's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of it feeds people's soul to, for lack of a better word, right, to stay in clinical. Maybe you grab a nurse who's topped out and the only option for them is to go be a director of nursing or go run a unit, and they have no desire to go do that. They want to stay on the bedside and they want to maybe make more money or have more opportunities, and they come over as a CS1 or a 2, and then they go to a 3 or a 4 or a trainer. There's a lot of companies that use their CS team as their training for new hires, and so there's opportunities there as well, and there's always opportunities to move back into a corporate office. So I'll stop talking, but I think that's a deep question with a lot of different directions. So Sophia, thanks for that.
It's a great question. Brett, do you have some
Yeah.
other ones for me? Or do you guys?
Who pays for the recruiter?
That's a good question. I probably get asked that once every week or two, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that's a fair question because I remember I landed a job with a company called Rico out of college. They're a copy sales company, and I didn't take it. I kind of wish I had, but a recruiter called me about it. So I remember speaking to the recruiter. I'm like, "What? Am I paying you, or is the company paying you?" They're like, "Oh, you don't pay me as a recruiter. I'm finding you a great job, and I'll help you interview for it." And I was like, "Well, who pays you?" "Oh, the company pays me." I'm like, "Oh, okay, gotcha." So as a recruiter, if I work with you guys, which I'd love to, I don't, of course, charge you guys. The company does pay us when we find super high level talent.
Okay, fair enough. And I just had one more question for you. If someone does engage with you and you respond back to them and you're positive and you see that they have a solid resume and you think you might be able to place them, what's normal for them to obviously you have to still continue to do the networking on your own with you, right? Is there a normal timeline, or is it just totally random for someone to find a job?
Well, shoot, I wish I could say every company hires in about 4 months, about a month from start to finish, not 4 months. But it really depends. I've heard of some companies we work with hiring in a week or two. And then I asked them, what's the biggest bottleneck? What's the issue? They said, well, people are rejecting our offers. I'm like, well, why is that? Oh, well, we only have a two-step process. And I was thinking, you might want to have a couple more calls and interviews than that. So expectation from when you guys get your first interview with whoever it may be, a giant company, J&J, small company, ABC Medical, that's actually a real company. They're a good company too. It's usually about a month plus or minus. It might take a week or so to get in the process, but usually interviews are 4 to 6 weeks is what I'd say for most companies. Some are longer. You hear some stories about some people interviewing 2, 3, 4 months, but I would really recommend, if you guys are employed, that's great. I would still stay on the job hunt, be proactive, continue to learn how to position yourself, and interview for a job or two at a time if you can. Not 5, not 10, because then you're not keeping up your current performance. You've got to provide for your household, whatever other obligations you may have. So one or two at a time, and really I notice when I speak to people that are interviewing for 5 roles, I'm like, how are you doing in the interviews? And they're like, well, I'm not doing that well. My current job, I'm not doing that well either. I'm like, you might want to commit to your current job, interview for 1 or 2 roles at a time, and then, really research. Don't mix up the companies and the interviews. That's too many. I couldn't interview for 3, 4, 5. That'd be really hard. Because to do enough homework we recommend, and Brett can go over these things so well because he's interviewed countless people. They like to add value in each interview step. If you're not doing the homework and the research and checking out competitors and really doing your diligence, you're not going to go far unless you're just lucky. So we'd rather not just be lucky, rather just actually plan and do. So hopefully that helps you guys there.
Yeah, and you reminded me of something that just came up recently with a candidate, and that is, don't quit your job. You said something similar to it, but don't leave your job and think I'm going to leave my job and then I'm just going to go start interviewing. It's just not a good sign. Usually, it's a red flag to most managers that why is this person not currently working, right? It just creates more questions that you might have to answer. So I'll stop there, Anthony. That's all the questions I had to sort of point in your direction.
Thank you, Brett. Those are some awesome questions. They were challenging, but that's what I want. Do you guys have any follow-up questions to those questions before I ask Brett and he takes the stage about, some medical questions for a med device hiring manager? Do you guys have any questions right now?
I have a quick question. For someone like me, I don't come from a traditional medical sales background. Someone like me trying to break in, work at Amazon B2B sales right now, ops in Los Angeles. Which companies or divisions are the most realistic when it comes to someone with perhaps my background versus someone with a traditional med sales background?
Quick follow up: Are you saying B2B sales?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anthony, you want to take that? Or you want me to?
I'd like to start, and I might have a different answer than you, Brett. And we'd love to both try to tackle that one because that's
Go
never
for it.
worked with someone from Amazon, but hey, they're at my house every day dropping off something, so I know Amazon. They're always here. So B2B sales, that's great. That's what a lot of med device companies look for. Like I mentioned, those copy sales companies are almost gone. So we have to look for as recruiters alternate sales, whether someone sells water, Amazon products, whatever it is, right? I make sure you've got your numbers, your hunting numbers, like your percentages to plan, any rankings if they stack rank you. If you don't have rankings, then know your percent to plan, your revenue numbers. You're in B2B, so that's a great thing. That's what a lot of med device managers, Brett may echo this, he may not, do look for, besides a lot of other traits we'll go into, the hunting, the personality, just the growth mindset, things like that. Research, going above and beyond. So that's a solid background. And as Brett mentioned, continue to stick it out. I don't know if you love working there or not, but even if you don't, I would continue to stick it out because when you're employed and interviewing, some employers are like, wow, if she can interview and is employed, she can run through a wall. Like she's Superwoman, right? So that I'd recommend there. And Brett probably has a good answer for you because that's an
Yeah.
awesome.
No, I would say very similar that's a great background for this, right? And I think maybe it might help you to for me to run through sort of my tiers of medical device jobs or companies. And this is in my head the way that this might work. And I think it's relevant to what you're talking about because you would qualify for sort of a maybe, I don't want to say low tier, but let me describe the tiers first and then see if that doesn't help you. So I think of the easier tiers to work in as something like I started in IV catheters, right? IV catheters are $3 and they're not super technically challenging. I worked at Gallo, was the first job that I ever had. I interviewed with J&J when I was still in college and I said, hey, what do I need to do to go to work for you? And the manager said, go to work for Gallo or Procter and Gamble. So I went to work for Gallo to do exactly what it is that you're doing, get B2B sales where you're out grinding every day, making 40 calls a week. It wasn't a ton of fun, but it was the work that I needed to do to get ready. So I go back to the tiers, right? And you've got things that aren't super complicated to sell that they'll absolutely go grab someone that has a good background in B2B sales because it's not that technically challenging to go sell packs and gowns. If you think about the drapes that they put on surgical instrument or surgical bed when someone's getting a procedure done, all of those things have sales reps. Everything in that room has a sales rep. right? So it's just, what is it that you want to start with? I use the word entry, on-ramp all the time, and it's, where's your on-ramp going to be, right? And just because you start selling packs and gowns or IV catheters doesn't mean you have to stay there forever either. So that's kind of that first tier. And the pay for each of these also ramps up with the tiers. And again, I don't know a better way of saying it than a tier, but then you start looking at these middle tier companies that are selling things a little bit more complicated, a little bit more challenging. Maybe there's more competition for them. I think of stents and balloons and things like that. But there's a lot that are sort of in that mid tier, and they pay more money, and they'll also still hire someone with a B2B background if it's strong. If you're coming in there working for Amazon B2B and you're out making sales calls, you've won awards doing that, you might be able to step up and get a little bit higher tier of a starting point. And look, I'm not saying you can't go straight to the highest end, right? Everyone's an individual. They can do crazy, amazing things. And so don't necessarily pigeonhole yourself. I'm just trying to give you conceptually an idea of where you might end up and what makes a lot of sense for you. But anyway, those jobs, really solid jobs. I know the question everyone wants to know is how much they pay, right? So I think the entry level, entry tier jobs, whatever you want to call it, somewhere between probably $50,000 a year and maybe 125, somewhere in that ballpark, right? All of these are just ranges. Anthony could probably tell you better than me because he sees more than me. That mid tier, I think it probably 120 to 240, 250, something like that, for a mid tier job, and maybe it fluctuates a little bit more because it's a little bit more challenging. Again, more competition, all these things, and then sort of the upper tier jobs, even above that, maybe even as well, right? There's some great jobs out there, a lot that I don't even know about, to be honest. Those are the hardest ones to get, right? Because a lot of that is relationship based, right? If you know every neurosurgeon in the state that you live in, you've got a ton of value, right? And if you went and sold something to them in that low tier, right, and you built relationships with them, and now you have 10 or 15 surgeons or whatever it is, orthopedic doctors, whatever it might be, that's how you build your value, and you skip up to the next tier, right? Because they need people that know physicians and know customers. So I hope that helped you.
It does. Thank you. Thank you both very
My pleasure.
much.
Thank you. Well, awesome. I'd love to ask Brett a couple of questions because whether you guys have interviewed for medical roles before or haven't, he's interviewed a lot of people and he's been interviewed himself and worked at some giant companies like Johnson & Johnson and many others. So I don't think they're very easy, the interviews, but obviously he knows a thing or two because he's hired a lot of folks. So Brett would like to ask you, in your interviews, like what are the qualities you're looking for in that person you're going to hire?
Yeah. So I get that a lot. And if someone asks me that in an interview, it's actually pretty funny. It's the one question I don't answer in an interview, because as soon as you answer that question, everyone just morphs into whatever it is that you just said. So I tend to not answer that. And let me back up and make an admission here too. I'm actually an interviewing coach. So I interview, or I coach managers on how to interview. And I have a system that's in place to do that. And I'll also coach candidates for just the entire process. So that's what you see, this eye for talent over my shoulder. The company that I'm currently with was gracious enough to allow me to do this in my private time. And so that's why we had to do it at 5:30 at night. And but that's a passion of mine, and it goes back a long way, and I've been helping people for a really long time. So that being said, what is it that you're looking for? I think that's probably as variable depending on who you're sitting in front of. What someone should be looking for, look, there's data out there that would suggest that intelligence is the biggest predictor of success in any job that you might have, right? So my job is to figure out if someone is coming into a role that's a good fit for them, intelligence wise. And then the other thing that I look for is trait conscientiousness. So if someone's familiar with the big 5 personality traits, there's 5 of those, and the second in line, so to speak, of importance in future productivity of somebody is conscientiousness, and that's they're task motivated, they're detail oriented, they're willing to persevere. People that are high in conscientiousness are all of those things, and those are the things that you try to look for. And a lot of people will, well, if you ask this question to 60 people, you're probably going to get 50 different answers, right? But that's what the book would say that it is that you're looking for. So I would always, myself, I do things to try to stay sharp, do things that are mentally challenging, whatever that might look like. But those are things that are important to me. And then some of the things that are just hard to figure out in an interview is how much grit and determination does somebody have, right? How bad do they actually want this thing? And you'd be amazed. I saw another manager say just about 2 weeks ago. He said the first thing I ask someone when they're interested in the role and I have an opening, send me a 90-second video of yourself, just introducing yourself and how you would introduce yourself to us and to a customer. It's like half the people won't even do that, right? So they're not interested, right? And then the percentage of people that actually take their time and do it is very small. So he's he's objectively shrinking his pool or her pool. I don't know if it was a male or a female, but they're shrinking their pool before they even come in. And so it's not that hard to stand out these days, right? With some help, because so many people that I'll sit down and interview with are just, some of the basics are just so far off. But I don't want to go too far down that road. So that's the main thing that I'm looking for.
That's
And I don't
awesome.
care what your background is. I've hired a phlebotomist that's a President's Club winning salesperson, and he had no idea what he was doing when I first hired him.
Wow. So
Making $14 an hour.
oh my gosh. So it's not necessarily someone's background, but their ability to learn, their intelligence, their conscientiousness, you said, Brett?
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, I've got 2 computers. One was running behind me. It's too bright. What else you got?
It's getting dark too quickly these days. I get it.
Yeah.
Let's see. So thanks for the answer for that one. That's very helpful. Yeah, great question. When you're, I've got a good one for you here. It's like when there's someone, like when someone comes to an interview, what should they bring? Like bring themselves, bring one resume. Should they bring anything else if it's their first in-person sit down with the manager?
Right. You're only limited by your own creativity. But I'll tell you this, the basics, I would have a folder. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. I was just going to see if I happen to have something nearby. It doesn't matter. I would have 5 resumes on good paper, period, when I showed up. You never know who's going to be there. I'll invite other people on my team to come to interviews that they can come to, just so they can learn how to do it. So when it's their turn in their time, they have a good idea of what they're doing. But that's the minimum for the first interview. That's what I would bring. And then one of the other things that we talk about in the class, the prep class, is find out what your wow is, right? How am I going to impress this person that I'm in front of? And I'll if you'll indulge me for 3 or 4 minutes, I'll tell you what my wow was when I had a company that I really wanted to go to work for. It was Guidant Cardiac Rhythm Management back in the day. And I had my first interview. It went well. And I got the second interview. And this was back before LinkedIn, right? I was networking. I knew every manager. I knew almost every sales rep in the state of Texas when I was living there at the time. So I had done my homework beforehand. But before I went to my second in-person interview, I'd called the corporate office and asked for the training department. And I said, they answered the phone, right? There was someone there. There's always almost someone in the corporate office that's in the training department. Every department you can think of, there's somebody there that day. So anyway, they answered the phone, and I said, what books are you using to train new hires? And one of them was a book on electrophysiology. The other was rapid EKG. So I bought both of those books. I went down and had to order them. I ordered the books. I read them both, and I put little tabs in the book, right? So when I showed up to that second interview and they said, "Hey, Brett, do you have any questions for us?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do have some questions." And I reach into my bag and I pull out these books and lay them on the table. I didn't have any questions really about it. I just wanted to show them that I'd read it, right? So I pull it out and I look through it, and the guy's like, "What is this?" And then I told him the story. Told him what I just told you guys, right? I mean, do you think I got that job? Heck yeah, I got the job, right? It's not that hard if I would fall out of my chair if somebody did that today. No lie, because people just don't go to that sort of extreme or creativity to get a job these days. They just don't. So that's my wow. So I highly recommend, if you go into that second interview, hey, what's my wow going to be here? Because you will get asked the question, what have you done to prepare for this interview today? And so many people just stumble on that. So at a minimum, maybe I should go for that. At a minimum, you should know all of their top 2 or 3 products at least. What is it they're intended to do? Who's the physician or the nurse, or who in the hospital uses the product, right? You could do an AI search. It takes 5 minutes, right? You can even write, "Hey, I'm interviewing with J&J, and it's in the orthopedic division. What's their top products and who is their competitors?" And like in literally 30 seconds, you could have everything that you need to go in and sound good and look good in that interview.
That's awesome, super helpful, and I kept catching myself saying wow, because going above and beyond, getting those books, and I know those are not small books, and I know they're very dense as well, and a lot of people wouldn't get the books, and a lot of people wouldn't even read them. So that's why people do less and less of that these days. Brett would probably agree and concur. Like, I don't really see people going much above and beyond. Like, oh, I checked out a couple of the devices. Oh, I went on your website. Like, most people go to the website before a first or second interview. That's good, but how can you differentiate yourself? So that's a wonderful point. And Brett's really great at coaching, and obviously done it himself, exemplified it himself. But when he sits down and interviews hundreds of candidates and empowers managers on how to interview, he knows what they're looking for. So thanks for that answer, Brett. That's
Yeah. Well, it's
oh, wow.
crazy, Anthony, that someone would show up and they're currently in a job making, $80,000. They say that they're money motivated, and you're sitting there and they're interviewing for a job for 200 grand, and they do nothing, right? You'd be amazed how often that happens.
Gosh, being early, showing up, getting dressed up, bringing one resume or two, that's sometimes that's not everyone will even do that stuff, right, these days. So that's unfortunate. They may not follow up and send a follow-up note after going over the interview, reiterating their interest. They may not do that either. So those things should be common knowledge. They're really not. But Brett mentioned going above and beyond with the wow story, because when you hear someone going above and beyond, like when I'm recruiting for a position and one candidate does that, there's probably one in the process that does that. Hey, maybe two out of a lot of people. Getting the interview alone is hard, but when your foot's in the door and you're just showing up, like, you'll just be lucky if you land the role, to be honest with you guys, right? Because your personality can get you so far. It got you to the interview, but what got you to the interview got you in your current job. It didn't get you this job yet, right? So something different is going to get you this job. So we call that a blind spot. Like, you have to find that blind spot, find that wow. Not always easy to find, but that's an amazing example. So another follow-up question to that, Brett, would be, um, okay, so that's a wow. That's quite a wow. What's a not no wow? What's a blunder? What have people done in interviews that
Oh,
no?
geez, we would take the whole time, I think, to go through things like that. I ended an interview in about 15 minutes recently, because I asked someone, "You're going to get the question, why do you want to work here? Why are you leaving the place that you're leaving right now? What are we doing here?" That's all the same question, asked a lot of different ways, right? And this person just went into, as a matter of fact, I just posted a video about this last week. A person went into literally about a 7 to 8 minute explanation of everything that was horrible about where they currently work, right? And I felt bad, but I ended the interview. There was no reason to keep going, and think of it if you go on a date, right? And the person that you're going on the date with just talks about their ex for the first 10 minutes. Like, I'm out of here. This doesn't make any sense for me to be here, right? So that's what it is. And so the question is, how do you answer that question, right? It's all positive reasons why you're there. There are positive reasons why you're there, or else why would you even come, right? The positive things that you're looking for, you want to build off your current, the things that you know, and you're trying to elevate your career and earn more money. And there's not a lot that someone can say about that, right? If you say, hey, I'm here to grow in my career, I want to earn more money, I want to be involved in more critical decisions, and just stop talking. And that's the second thing I'll say too. The best interview advice I can possibly give you is answer the question and stop talking. So many times, the more you talk, the worse off you are. There's no reason to ramble on and not stay focused on the question at hand. It's also a good indicator of how you're going to be in front of a customer.
Wow, that's super helpful, Brett. So to make sure I understand you correctly, someone should tell the whole story, maybe not 8 minutes about how they hate their boss, no, but tell why they're looking, things they like about their job. Tell the story, precisely, accurately, and just wait for the next question or the next conversation point.
Yeah, as soon as you're done telling your story, and yeah, there's no reason you can't tell the full story, stay on the topic. All that's great, right? If it takes you 2 or 3 minutes to tell a story, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when you're in your head, you're thinking, oh, I think I'm talking too much. You probably are. So it's a good time to just stop and just stare at the interviewer right in the eyes, right? Silence in the interview is not on the candidate to fix. It's on the interviewer to take care of.
Oh, that's an awesome point. Yeah, I haven't heard that. I know some candidates will prep and practice lists of so many questions, which you could find online, break into medical questions, commonly asked interview questions. But the preparing though for sitting down with someone or being on Zoom with someone or on the phone, like that's a little bit different than speaking to yourself and answering questions.
Right.
How should someone prepare in that way? Should they like work with friends or something to make sure they're telling the story, but also making sure there's time for quiet?
Yeah. So I think that if you prepare for sort of 4 or 5 questions that are the main questions, you're probably just going to get a bunch of derivatives of those questions, right? And you can use the same or similar answers to multiple different questions. And one of the questions that I generally start off an interview with is take 5 minutes and give me tell me about your career, walk through your career up to this point, touch on any highlights that you want to, and that you want to make sure that I know. And questions like that are loaded, right? And know this too, that every manager, it's just the way that an interview happens to work. They're looking for a reason not to hire you. There's very little that's actually small talk, even though it might seem like it is. And even that question right there, the first part people sometimes don't hear. It's the take 5 minutes, right? So how should you respond when you hear something like that, or how do you prep for that? And the thing that I would make sure and be able to do really well is tell your own story. It should last 4 to 5 minutes. It should be chronological. That way you can remember it in your head when you're sitting in front of someone, right? If they don't give you a starting point, I would always start with, hey, I went to the University of X because of this, right? It just gives you a good place in your head that you can start with on and tell your story. And you want to be able to touch on highlights, and you also want to dang sure make sure you don't talk for 10 minutes if someone throws out something like that, right? I've got a personal record of 17 minutes, and I won't stop someone if they go, right? I'll just let them keep talking. And I'm testing someone's emotional intelligence, their listening ability, right? There's a whole lot that's going into that question that people just they don't understand or they don't know, and that's okay. But that's what it is that I'm looking for. And then the other main things that you need to practice, and you have to, Anthony, to your point, you just have to practice it, right? People hate putting a video camera on. Everyone's got a phone, right? It's not like you can't practice it. Turn it on. And if we're role playing, if we're doing a sales training, we're absolutely taping things, right? And helping people get better. That's what this is all about. It's not about how bad it is. It's supposed to be bad when you start, right? Of course, it's going to be horrible. If you go to start writing a book, the first draft is going to be horrible, right? Just like your interview and everything, it's just going to be bad until you get better at it, and you just try to get incrementally better every time you do it. And I guarantee you, if you practice, you say, okay, I'm going to write this thing out, my story, and I'm even the bullets, the highlights, and you do a video and you do it 3 times. I guarantee you the third one is going to be far superior to the first one, and you're going to feel so much more comfortable walking into an interview if you practice that. So it's telling your own story. It's talking about a time that you had to overcome some obstacles, right, in your career. What are you really proud of in your career, right, that you want to make sure and talk about. If you can do those 3 things, you can do a lot in an interview.
That's super helpful, Brett. Truly appreciate that. I mean, it sounds simple, but it sounds like it's an uncommon thing that people actually practice and master. Something I need to work on as well. So I'd love to. Quick observation would be, I have an observation I'd like to share, and then a quick question for you, and then we'll open up the floor to you guys for whatever questions you have for Brett. For me, I'd love to hear them. I think you guys have asked me, but I'm open too. So my observation is that people will come to us as recruiters, come to people in medical device companies, and that's great. It's really being proactive. Some will go take courses. You guys have probably heard of Medical Sales College. Anyone gone to Medical Sales College here by show of hands? You guys heard of it? Nobody? Okay. Well, Medical Sales Colleges, there are a couple colleges, and that's the one that I know a lot of people have gone to, and they ask me all the time, should I go to Medical Sales College? I'm like, well, it's over 10 grand a year. You have to take some time off work. So it's 10 grand it's a month course to my knowledge. And does it prepare you? They show you how to interview. It's also $10,000 and you can't do it remotely. So there are services out there like Medical Sales College for about 10 grand. So I wanted to kind of compare that to Brett, your Eye for Talent company, because you've helped a lot of people now at this point. So I'd love for you to explain like how you help people because you've helped a lot of people.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. So I am, like I said, my company has allowed me to do this in my own time. So I just take a couple of people at a time, and it's from the beginning to the end, right, of everything they need to do. It's interview prep. It's one-on-one. It's just like this, just with us and whoever it happens to be to get somebody ready for interviewing. And I've interviewed people that have gone through. I'm not the only one that does this, right? And I highly recommend looking at everybody before you would choose us. And I'll also say medical device college is more like 20,000 to go to that. It's a lot more expensive than 10 grand, at least from my perspective. It also is almost purely orthopedic at this point. But there used to just be one in Nashville, and now they're everywhere. And so clearly there's a lot of people that are willing to spend $25,000 to go and do that so they can get into the career. So I'm sorry, Anthony, go back to what your question was.
Yeah, so is your program where you help people,
Oh,
a lot of people that I know, is it comparable to Medical Sales College? Sounds like it's more one-on-one?
yeah, it's more one-on-one. It's not specific to any industry, and I'm just doing what I've been doing for 25 years, right? And that's helping people get into the business. And so again, we take a very small number, and I appreciate you talking about that. But it's really there's a whole Thinkific course on it, and then also one-on-one coaching. And I was going to say that I hired someone that went through coaching, and it makes such a radical difference because their follow-up's better, their interview skills are better. They just come prepared for everything. And right or wrong, fortunately or not, these are highly coveted jobs, and people are willing to spend money to put themselves in a good position to win one.
It makes sense. I mean, people have coaches for sports. I had a coach to help take me take the SAT, and it helped me take it a ton better. Probably wouldn't have gotten into the same school without it. I know I wouldn't have, so it makes complete sense. So thanks for sharing that. Of course, you guys feel free to reach out to Brett. He's got a great course, truly a great offering if you're serious about medical. We're going to keep posting these once in a while, but of course, you get a question or two answered here. You get a ton answered from Brett, so that's completely up to you guys. I'll leave it up to you. Like to open up the floor now to who may have questions for Brett. I know I asked him a couple, like the wow question, and he had a wow answer for that one. But any other questions you guys would have here?
Yes, I have a question about the associate territory rep. You talked a little bit about the clinical specialist and having a nursing background, getting into that. Is there a specific background that would be good into getting into that associate territory rep? And also, can you talk a little bit about you described the device as clinically challenging, but lower pressure. Can you talk a little bit about that?
What about the pressure? I'm sorry.
About the what?
Well, I'm sorry. What was the part about pressure?
The lower pressure in being an associate territory rep.
Oh, okay. I'm with you. So backgrounds for an ASR, I think it's very similar to the background that we were talking about earlier with a B2B. It's probably a little bit more like you might hire someone that's been in B2B for a couple of years versus if you've got a job that's a high end sales rep and you're willing to hire someone from B2B. You can go get someone. I'll throw out an example. A guy that I hired over a decade ago. He was ADP sales rep, 2 President's Club award wins, multiple promotions, probably 8 years in. That's someone that can probably pretty easily make a jump to a higher tier. An ASR, man, it can be. Well, the guy I was telling you was a phlebotomist when I hired him as an ASR. That was the role that I brought him into, right? I was looking for someone with the fundamentals and the motivations of a future salesperson. Nathan, I didn't care what it was. They're a little bit of a role that you can take a gamble with somebody with if you think that they've got the right nuts and bolts to be a future star.
Awesome. I'd love to tackle that too, Nathan, if you're open to it, because I'm actually working on my company's doing a search, and it's Oklahoma City for a company called Kerecis under Coloplast. So Coloplast is a pretty large company. You may or may not have heard of them. Kerecis is a developing skin biologic company, and the role is an associate role. And we asked the manager, "What are you looking for? Tell us about all the traits. What do they look like on paper?" He said, "Well, I'm open to background. So they want some type of healthcare background." Doesn't have to be healthcare sales at all. It probably won't be because this role pays 70 grand. So it's not a lot, but it does break you in, and it's a wonderful role. So they're open to someone in healthcare, someone that's done some sales. So if you're in sales, make sure you can quantify it. Something else that's that wow, that above and beyond. If someone's an athlete or was it the head of a fraternity or sorority, something like that, heads up a charity, something like that, that makes them stick out. They'd be open to interview them. They've got that X factor, right? So there is not just one profile for an associate sales rep role. We could easily say, okay, a 2-year copy rep, a 2-year ADP rep. It's not that cut and dry though, because you don't not that many people sell copiers anymore, like we talked about. Like I would recommend to you guys, if you do really want the sales role and you want to make sure you actually like sales, I would recommend, and Brett actually told me this, to go, as he mentioned, to Gallo, like where he went. Go to Southern Glazers, go to some other companies he can recommend to you. Make sure you actually like sales so you can succeed there, have a track record of success, documented, of course. Then the door's open to you, and more recruiters like me will reach out to you too. Companies will reach out to you. So it kind of changes things versus you're reaching out, which you should do. They'll reach out to you sometimes when you've got that B2B hunting background. So if you're really not getting interviews, get interview coached, of course, and look into sales if you want to, if you're not already in healthcare, is what I'd recommend.
Yeah, something, Anthony, that we talked about last time. Nathan, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, of course.
Thanks, Nathan.
The other thing that we had talked about is some people it's going to be a 2-step process, right? Where you have to take that intermediate job that you might not have it right now in order to get that next job, right? You might have to do the Amazon B2B, right? Before you can do whatever it is that you want to do down the road. So it's not always a perfect entry. And I keep saying that, I don't know how else to say it better, an on-ramp into the dream job that you want. What else you
Definitely.
guys got? We got about 5 minutes.
I have a question really quickly.
Sure.
Mine's regarding students, obviously, and people who haven't broken into the industry yet. And so like right now, like me personally working through internships right now with that busy process, is there anything like skill related that's becoming more demanding? And also, is there anything that you recommend that I can like leverage on for like my background getting into a sales internship besides
What
just
year,
like a good resume, cover letter?
right? What year are you, Eva?
I'm a sophomore.
Okay. All right. So you got plenty of time, first off. So congrats for getting on
Yeah.
this. Anthony, you want to go first? I've got some ideas, but I'm happy to.
Yeah, internships, part-time jobs, and I'll let Brett take the floor in a second because you've got time, but I love that you're being so proactive. You're on here. So if you look at internships, summer jobs, jobs even during winter break, I don't know how long your break is. That builds your resume. Even work for if you have family, help them, assist them, put that on your resume. And then if you're looking for that sales role, sales internship at ADP or Xerox, then they're going to say, oh, she's got work experience. It's in college. Wow. So she's in college and working part-time, or took those other jobs. That's cool. That's building a resume to me. So that's what I would see. Brett, what would you say to that? Because that's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome question.
I would say go sell something. It doesn't matter what it is, right? You want to be able to put on your resume, I started with a territory of this, or I started with a couple of businesses that were doing $1,000 a month, just to give you an example. And then I was able to grow it into $10,000 a month, whatever the numbers is, it doesn't really matter, right? What matters is that you go out and you can pound the door. My daughter was a sales rep for HotWorks, right? And she got another interview based on the fact that she was a salesperson for HotWorks. She was it's proof that you're willing to go out, knock on doors, ask for business, and have people tell you no all day long, right? That's another thing too that you're gonna.
I'm asking because, yeah,
go ahead.
I'm asking because I actually did an internship, an interview for an internship last semester, and I didn't
Okay.
get it. And so I guess like from now, I'm kind of like wondering like what can I do better in this sense of like what skills do I need to develop
to me,
and
it doesn't matter what you sell. Just sell anything that you can get some wins down on a resume, right? That's what's going to differentiate you when you get out. If you're sitting in front of a hiring manager once you graduate, and they're looking at you and the other 100 people that you're graduating with that all want the same job, I'm just giving you an example, right? And you found a way to go sell literally anything, even if you're not getting paid for it. It doesn't matter. And you can talk about what you were doing, how you were selling, how you were picking who you went to go call on, how you actually went and called on them. Here's what you learned. You're so far ahead of anyone else. I just saw Lily on here. Lily's one of my clients too. So hey, Lily. But she's in the same boat you are. She's a little bit further along than you in college, but just go sell anything. That way too, let me say one other point to this. I know we're running short on time. If you have some wins on your resume, that's what you're going to talk about in the interview versus soft skill sets like I'm good at, or soft skills that you might have. I'm good at Excel, or I'm good at this program, this, that, or the other, which everyone else talks about. You're actually going to have some bullet points that that the interviewer is going to want to ask you about how you did it. And they're going to want to know, hey, what did she go do? And the things that she learned, is that going to be transferable to this new job? And that way you're driving the interview. And it's so important if you have things like this on there. You're driving the interview because they're asking things about you that are highlights, right, of your career and things that you want to be talking about. You don't want to be talking about like some random thing that you can't really control. But if you've got some really good bullet points on your resume, some things that you did, and some sales calls, even if you're just like, hey, I made 40 sales calls a week, or I made 20 sales calls a week, that's 20 more than anyone else that you're up against. So I think you're on the right track. It's great that you got an interview as a sophomore for that. Most of the time, my experience is we would only hire people between their junior and senior years for internships because it was just a long interview process is what an internship really is.
Right. It was long, yeah.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
thank you. I said thank you.
Yeah, of course. Oh, my pleasure.
I have a question real quick. So for me, kind of different. I've been in sales for 15 years now, specifically in the crane industry. And I've always wanted to go into the medical side of sales. But I've been very successful in what I've been doing. And so now I've kind of got to the point where it's like if I don't make the transition, I'm probably never going to do it, And the issue that I've been running into is that I'm both overqualified for a lot of these positions and underqualified because I don't have any medical background.
Right.
My history, my degree was in sciences back in 15 years ago. So how would you recommend me traversing that, with me, being both overqualified and underqualified for a lot of these?
Anthony, I don't know if you want to take that. You want me to?
I'd like to start because
Please.
I've been privileged to speak with Robert, right?
Yeah.
We spoke on the phone, introduced by a colleague, and obviously very successful individual. And this is what I see in my recruiting. Like they'll even tell me, oh, for the sales rep role, we either want someone in medical, but if you find outside sales like you do, maybe 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10, not 15 or 20. And I'll say, why not? Oh, well, they may be making too much money. Maybe they're uncoachable. They're set in their ways. Who knows? Just a brand new industry. So they've been in that industry 15, 20 years. And we just want 8 years. So Robert and I talked about how, like, in the income as well, like if he finds an associate role, it's probably not going to work for him with the sales success, right? So he's going to look for a full representative role. But there are companies like you're in Northern California, you're in Sacramento, is that right?
Yeah.
It's a good market. Sacramento's a really great place, growing place. It is a good market. Like we talked about, it's really going to be the proactivity and the interview coaching. Because once you get the interview coaching and your foot in the door, you're going to be good. But getting the foot in the door to get that first interview is not always easy. And Brett's got great techniques for that. And it's the proactivity stuff. I'll go over that from an eagle eye perspective. It's really being super proactive with your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues, and those people on LinkedIn. It's not fun to be on LinkedIn an hour or two a week or five, but it's really going to help. I had a good friend I helped get a job in engineering, and I didn't place him, but I helped him get an interview, and he had to reach out to a lot of people because he applied to 50 roles. Out of the 50 positions, he got one interview, and he's right out of college. But through networking, he got his position. So it's a two-pronged approach. You got to network, you got to prepare. It's three, and also do the LinkedIn, the online stuff too. So
Okay.
hopefully that helps. Brett, what would you say to?
Yeah, I would just say, look, it's not some people are easier to place than others, right? And I'm not saying you're easier, but there's a spectrum of all of it, right? Some people
Sure.
are just, oh, this makes tons of sense. It's super easy. And then you've got someone like you that has a lot of factors, right? Because some of those jobs that he was talking about are not jobs that you'd be willing to take, right? Because you just can't. And I've been doing it for a long time, and I'll get calls too. People are like, oh, we want you to go run the nation for this product. I'm like, what does it pay? I'm like, oh, sorry, I can't do that. Thank you for calling, but it just doesn't work for my family, right? So the question really becomes that you're going to have to talk about in the interview is why, right? Why is it you really want to do this, right? What makes sense for you and what doesn't, and that's going to be maybe more challenging for you than somebody else on the call. But there is no reason. I think companies get burned on, especially if you've been at 15 years at the same organization or maybe just two. You show some longevity, and that's a big advantage that some people they're in the early 20s that they just don't have, right? And I think a lot of people are getting burned by people not staying in the organization for very long. It costs us about $200,000 to train someone.
Sure.
Right. And so I hate if my investment goes out the door in 16 months because I made a hiring mistake, right?
Yeah.
Or they were not honest with what they wanted. So that's the angle that I would take if I was you, right? Hey, I've got some longevity. I'm not going to do what you may have seen before,
Mhm.
and go down that road. And it's all going to be your networking ability, right? And when you show up, if you get an interview, man, you go all out, suit, everything. Like the way you look matters,
Sure.
100%, right?
100%.
All of us. I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm talking about everyone. The way that you
Yeah.
walk in, Anthony mentioned it for just a second. He didn't say anything about it, but man, if you're going to a medical device interview and you're not wearing a suit and a tie, and ladies, a jacket, look like you're an investment banker, whatever that looks like for you, right? That's the image that you want to portray, because that you want that person to invest in you. So that's exactly what's happening. I've had people show up in shorts before to an interview. It didn't last very long.
You guys, this has been really fun. I know we're running over a little bit, so I want to be considerate of everyone's time. Like, for just some closing notes, like we really appreciate you guys getting on here. There are next steps, in the chat. You'll see Brett's contacts in there. We don't do these often because we want to really just really add value when we can per your schedules and ours. But we're so happy you guys are all on here. Definitely don't hesitate about next steps. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. Definitely reach out to Brett about his program if it's something that interests you. Brett, what would you say in closing for everyone?
No, I'm so grateful for the group to come on, and the questions were fantastic. And so I hope that you guys got something out of it. If I was in your shoes and I got something like this, I know I definitely would have gotten something out of it, learned something I didn't know. So I appreciate you guys jumping on. We're here if you need us.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, I guess we'll conclude right now, and definitely stay in touch, and great luck in the interviews.
Yeah, and in case anyone didn't see it, real quick, I put an interview cheat sheet in the chat. So if you want it, it's a good thing to just walk through when you're interviewing, just to take notes on, and keep yourself organized in what you're thinking about, and how you ask questions. So that's all I got. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You.
Um, I I just wanted to ask one thing. First off, I appreciate you guys doing this. I hopped on a little late, and one of the things you were talking about, I kind of missed the very end of it, but you're talking about kind of those cliche responses that you receive on LinkedIn. Like you don't want to be the guy that says, "Hey, I want to pick your brain." What's like a better approach? Because just a little background, I got 4 years sales experience from Lexington, Kentucky, graduated from the University of Mississippi, kind of just trying to get my foot in the door, kind of find that ramp he's been talking about all night.
Sorry, what's your name?
Hunter Rice.
Oh, Hunter. Yeah. How you doing, Hunter?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I used to do this with my sales. I do recruiting, but actually the companies don't always come to us. So I have to say, hey, how can we help you? I used to say, just following up. That's like annoying, right? I'm not adding
hmm
like, oh, I've got these great candidates. I got Hunter for you. Oh, that's some value. Okay, let's talk, right? Okay. Well, if you're looking at what niche do you like orthopedics? What interests you, Hunter, that you see in medical? Do you know?
Specifically, I've been applying to, there's a few with Striker, like foot and ankle. I mean, as far as interest, I mean, I'll be transparent with you. Like, I'm just trying to make more money. I feel like I have the work ethic, and
Yeah.
I'm not too picky, to be honest.
I like the honesty. Some people don't know I just want to work at Striker because it's like, well, you want to make money. I think you'll love it as well. So yeah, when you're applying to Striker, that's fine and all. That's great and all. If you get an interview, you're just kind of lucky. So what I'd say is really find a bunch of people. It's not one or two. It's a good number. You're going to reach out to them and say, "Hey, Jenny, I saw you work at Striker." Find their division. If it says CMF, craniomaxillofacial, or ortho spine, I see you work at Striker Spine. I've checked out Smith and Nephew and Zimmer Biomet. I'd love to talk about the competition. Do you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes? That's cool. It's like, oh, this guy did some homework, right? Oh, I've checked out these devices from Stryker. I'm interested. Hey, can we have a call on it? Oh, damn, this guy knows his stuff, right? Just a little bit of value from Google in it or using chat. A little bit of value. It's cool versus let me pick your brain or I want to jump on a call with you. I'm like, and I'll be like, if someone tells you, hey, I just want to jump on a call with you, do you want to jump on a call? It's like when someone leaves a voicemail, hey, call me. Is that make you want to. I think someone died,
Yeah.
right? It's like, no, I'm not gonna call you. Just text me what's up, right? Oh, I saw that, you work at this company. This is your career path. I went to college here too. That's kind of cool. I like that. I went to school here. I'm from here too. This is in Lexington. I'm in Louisville. Okay, that's kind of cool. Just whatever
Mhm.
similarities you see, someone in common with them, bring them up. Oh, I went to school with this guy. Hey, how well do you know him? I see you work at Stryker. I checked out your division. Can I talk with you? That's cool. So when you add someone on LinkedIn, put a sentence or two. Not I'll pick your brain, a sentence or two that's
Yeah, of
personalized.
course.
I hope that helps because I'll let you into my business. Like I work with 6 different medical companies. I work with you guys as well, which is a privilege.
Mhm.
And do they just give me openings? Eventually they do, but at first they say, "Oh, well, you've got to we'll give you openings eventually, but I have to do sales, right?" And I can't just say I'm following up. I'm like, I've got great candidates here. I see your opening. I see John who knows you. I've helped John with these hires. How can I help you? Like, just draw the connections because, yeah, Striker, people are money motivated too. Bring that up. That's cool. Hey, I'm money motivated. I do this. I'd like to make more. I see you work at Striker. I see you went to school here. Let's just jump on a call. That's like, huh, okay. Like, just really draw connections. The more, the better. And, LinkedIn does help with that. I would recommend spend the $100 or do the $100 trial. Maybe it's free for a month. And then when you have a month, just go all after it for sure. Send a lot of requests when you request to add someone, add those 2 or 3 sentences in there. 100 is what I'd say.
Okay, nice. I really appreciate it. As far as like are you the type like if I was to send my resume over to you, do you think you could kind of take a look and just, say, hey, take this, add that?
Yeah. Let me you have my email address already? Or do you need it?
Uh, I do not.
I'm gonna put it in the chat and I'll keep the chat open a few more minutes here, even when we finish. So I would check out that interview guide, and then copy paste my email, and then send me your resume, Hunter. This is Anthony, kind of a long one, so it's in there for you now. But that's it. And I'm not like a career consultant like Brett, but I do work with a lot of candidates of high caliber like yourself and companies, so I know what they're looking for. It's like basically bullet points, every position, your education, any clubs, athletics, have it on there, all that stuff. For you,
Hmm.
your guy, I'd have it on a page, not 3 pages, one page, bullet point format. Um, what you're doing, what you're representing now. That's in a nutshell. So I'd be happy to check out your resume.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it. I think mine's just a little wordy. There's some stuff I probably need to take off, but yeah, I just want to say thank you, but I'll shoot that over to you. Where are you at? What time is it?
I'm in California. I got it. My wife's calling me for
Okay.
dinner, so I got a minute or two. So please forgive me. It's later where you
Yeah,
are. So you guys are
I'm
Eastern,
in
right?
Kentucky, so it's almost 10 o'clock. I got to get up for work in the morning, so
Hunter, thanks for jumping on,
little
man.
late. Yeah, of course.
It looks like you're outside. It looks really dark. So I'm like, oh, wherever he is, it was dark the whole time. For here, it's almost dark. So we're gonna eat and just go on a little walk. But yeah, Lexington's a great place. I got some buddies that moved out there. They love it.
For sure. All right, good to hear, man. Well, I appreciate your time and you have a good rest of your night.
Appreciate you, Hunter. Have a good night.
Yeah, take it easy.
Take care.